In this study, we were interested in the topic of sense of agency and social contexts. Sense of agency is the feeling of being in control over our own actions and the consequences of those actions. So to give an example, when I press a light switch and the light goes on, I feel in control over that consequence of my action. So I feel sense of agency over that light that went on when I pressed the light switch. Now, the interesting phenomenon that occurs in social contexts is that when we do actions together with other partners, we experience so-called sense of joint agency. So independently of whether it is actually me who presses this light switch or my partner who presses the light switch, I feel in control, I feel sense of agency over the outcome. And that is what we term sense of joint agency. Of our interest was whether one would experience sense of joint agency also with a humanoid robot, so an artificial, not natural agent. So to address this question, we implemented an experimental paradigm where participants engaged in a joint action with the robot that was kind of a complementary action. So they had to press a key to move a cursor towards a target location. And in that case, they were the ones who were moving the cursor towards a target location, and the partner had to confirm when the cursor landed on the target location. And that landing on the target location produced a tone. And that tone was the analog of the light that I just gave an example of. Now the question is whether our participants would experience sense of agency over that tone, so the consequence of the action, independently of whether they were the ones who actually did the last action of confirming the cursor on the target, or whether the robot was the one who did this last action. What our results showed is that this sense of joint agency with a humanoid robot occurs when participants attribute intentional agency to the robot, but not when they perceive the robot just as a mechanical device. And that is quite crucial because it shows that our attitudes towards robots, so whether we treat them as intentional agents or just mechanical devices, will actually affect the way we interact with them and the way we engage in joint action with them.
So in addition, we were also interested in how brains process the sensory consequences produced in joint actions. And interestingly, what we found is that when you perceive your robotic partner as more mechanical, as more of a machine, you process the sensory consequences produced by the robot differently to how you process the sensory consequences that you produce yourself. But what changed when people started to attribute an intentional agency to the robot was quite interesting. We found that people processed the sensory consequences produced by their partner and by themselves as the same when they perceived the robot as intentional. And this is quite interesting because it shows that not only does the way you perceive your robotic partner influence your behavior, but also how you perceive and how you process the actions of the robots on a neural level.